This is an Audio Wool original.
This episode of Frightday is brought to you by Spring-Heeled Jack Coffee. You need great coffee. Jack delivers. Visit springhieldjack.coffee.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you'd like to support us, go to patreon.com/frightday.
Cool. Well, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Great. I think we just start the show. I'm fine with starting the show. What?
Okay,
I mean,
fine.
You didn't say anything interesting that anyone needs to hear.
I say things interesting every moment of every day. It's just a matter of whether you recognize it. Sometimes you're tuned into it and sometimes you're tuned out of it.
You're absolutely
it's not
right.
Something that I can help.
I haven't taken my pay attention pills, so.
Oh, I should probably take another one of those. It's been like 4 hours.
Well, oh no. Let me grab a drink. Oh no, that doesn't taste good.
Where did I put my fucking goddamn note cards? Hold on.
You're fine.
It's okay because I got my focus pills at the same time. You're going to see an energy explosion in just about 15 minutes. You just wait for it. And
It is Frightday. I'm your host, Byron. And being a high school aged girl is grueling. Avoiding mean girls, getting good grades, and struggles don't stop when the school bell rings. But imagine how hard it is to be a sadistic serial killer. Kelly will consider that as we walk a mile or so in those shoes tonight as we review Christopher Landon's Freaky.
Kelly will consider that? Why won't you consider that?
I don't know. And last week, we met Norma Jean Mortensen. It's time to introduce you to Marilyn Monroe. In part 2 of Marilyn Monroe Burr, in this week's edition of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies, I'm joined tonight by Kelly.
Yeah, hello.
And Sam can't make it because he's trying to get his body back from a young lady.
Oh, I guess.
You were unaware of that one. I'm sorry to break the news.
I was unaware of that.
It's a bit
that
of a...
would explain why he's been acting so strange, though.
Yeah. And I just got off the horn with a guy, a gentleman, Sean Linden. We talked about his new film, Hunter x Hunter.
This is a hard life. You chose it and it suits you. I chose it when I chose you. Renee never had a choice.
What do you do if you see something?
Don't run. The wolf is back. Ate a raccoon and left the paw.
This isn't a normal wolf.
It's just a hungry wolf looking for an easy meal. I will catch it.
What is that?
It's a ring.
The wolf ate a ring?
Maybe it was attached to something that tasted good.
What, like a finger?
I like Canadians.
Okay.
I don't like hunting a ton,
You know,
but it does sound like a pretty good movie.
yeah, a fur trapper leaves his wife and daughter behind to kill a rogue wolf in the remote wilderness, but they soon become increasingly worried when a severely injured man shows up to disrupt their peaceful existence. This guy, real great, and his film is a blast. I just finished it up this morning. A perfect way to kick off your winter. Real bleak, real mean, some amazing performances. It's got a Devon Sawa.
Oh, God, that Sawa. Remember when all the girls were bananas about
People
him?
loved him. He had those
Like
idle
30
hands.
years ago or
Remember those
whatever?
hands were idle for a while?
I do.
And,
I do.
What was the other one? Final Destination?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But it doesn't stop there. We last year teased that we were going to watch a film for me, which I still think we should, for Cinema Autopsy, called The Fanatic, which Devon Sawa is in as well. That Fred Durst directed John Travolta film. It's bizarre. So good. So is Hunter x Hunter. You'll hear the interview pretty soon here. But yeah, the star of this film, an actress that I had never seen before, Camille Sullivan. Wow. Such a visceral performance. I think we might actually cover this film either next week or right before New Year's, the year-ender episode. I'm unsure, but Watch it. It comes out on VOD December 18th. Can't recommend it enough. The ending is shocking.
Well, let me say this. I always want to give Canadians the benefit of the doubt because they're just better in most cases. So that piqued my interest a little. The rest of the movie didn't sound that awesome. But then when you told me about a twisty, I can't resist a twist.
It's got about a 1.5 Shyamalan's.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, you got to sit down, got to watch it. Pull Sam into this one. This would be a fun one for you guys to watch, whether or not we cover it on the show. I think you need to watch it before our year-end episode, which
okay.
Coming
right up.
We need to.
She'll be coming round.
Wait, they sing that in. Did they sing that in this the film that we're?
Yeah, they do. She does. That's why it's in my head.
So this is one of the reasons you can't accuse me of not watching a film, which you already did today.
I did today, and I'm proud of you that you picked up on that. That was very good, Byron.
You don't
Good
need
job.
to assume I didn't watch the film that we're going to talk about later in the show, Freaky, just because Byron watch a lot of things.
Okay.
I also regular watch a lot of things. I guess it's time to open up the door, flip the sign. It's time for staff picks.
They say so much, but they never tell you if it's any good.
Werewolf movie with E.T.'s mom in it.
The Howling, horror, straight ahead.
I'm going to let you go first with staff picks tonight because I'm going to ramble.
Oh, God. I'm
a rambling man tonight.
Okay. Wow. Wasn't expecting that.
Sorry.
So we did an entire Behind the Screams on Meta Horror a while back. I think it was one of the first episodes that we did of that. I haven't listened to it, but if I didn't mention the film I'm about to talk about, I did y'all a disservice. I caught the premiere of it at South by Southwest 2017. We covered it for the show in episode 134, which is Simulation Theory Part 2, the only series we've ever bailed on.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it at some point. It's just a lot.
2021 is going to be the year because we're going to be looking back on 2020 as evidence of simulation.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Tyler McInerney's Tragedy Girls, you need to remedy that.
Sometimes I just feel like nothing I do matters. Like I'm not special. We only got one retweet today from your mom. Sad.
We were just wondering if maybe you could give our blog a shout out.
A shout out from me would be a little off-brand.
I have 15,000 followers. You know what that means in a community like this?
More to the left. His heart's more to the left. You're just hitting bone, dude. I'm trying.
Teenage crime reporter Sadie and Michaela are hot on the trail of a crazed serial killer. After capturing the maniac and holding him hostage, they soon realize that the best way to boost their social media stardom is to commit the murders themselves. Remember this dang thing?
I do, but barely.
Oh, well,
It's been a while.
You should rewatch it because it's my second favorite meta horror film next to Scream. It's quick, it's witty.
On, more than Cabin in the Woods because Cabin in the Woods is the best meta.
Ooh, it's close. I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. Dang. It's really good. It's quick, it's witty, it's well written, it's fun, darkly comedic, morally interesting. It's like watching Scream, but from the perspective of, and I need to give a spoiler alert for a decades-old horror classic. It's like watching Scream from the perspective of Stu and Billy.
Okay. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, and I don't know what's wrong with us, apparently.
But it sounds like a non-reliable narrator for sure.
No, you can rely on them. They're just bad people. And I don't know what's wrong with us. Tyler McInerney, the director of this film, apparently he's also the man behind that Judy Greer Hulu's Into the Dark film Good Boy, which
I really want to watch at some point. I haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
I have not. After being forced into freelance work, 39-year-old journalist Maggie Glenn is encouraged by her boss to adopt an emotional support dog. She does so, unwittingly becoming embroiled in much more than she bargained for, as the dog is not what he appears to be and is far more dangerous than your average pet. It was on our schedule to watch. It has a 6.3 on IMDb, but yeah, we just never got to it, Kelly. I think we've got some catching up to do before the year-ender. I will be doing my best. I kind of surprised them by being like, hey guys, top 13s at the end of the year are coming up pretty quick. I, much like them, have not seen as many films as I had last year, so we got some work to do.
Well,
it's just hard.
It is really hard, and it's just been a really weird year for movies in the sense that there's not a standard timeline that we've followed with, oh, this is coming out, we're going to go see this. The release schedule has been such a cluster. It's all been very, very confusing.
Things have been shuffled around. The hype has been very strange with certain things. Things come and go really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, that's fine. I suppose that's good. It's not nearly as good as my recommendation, though.
All right,
so
well, what you got?
Mine is more of a body of work. I'm going to recommend some films that I don't even know how people can get their hands on, but they can certainly watch pieces of them online.
Great recommendation so far. But I mean, I kind of am visualizing one of those mom and pops, like in Portland video stores, where they have a whole section dedicated to just what you're about to talk about.
Guarantee you 100% that they would have those.
Okay, what are we talking about?
We're talking about a series of films that Crispin Hellion Glover made.
Great middle name.
Yeah, the most surreal, unsettling, possibly because I don't have a degree in film studies, I didn't understand, but whoa.
Open Season 2? Is that what you're thinking?
No, but my kids do love that one.
All right.
What Is It is the name of the first.
From 2005. Okay.
Yeah, it's part of the It trilogy.
And what is it?
Well, it was a really controversial movie, and it's interesting because I can't remember whether we talked about this on or off the record last week, but we were talking about Peanut Butter Falcon, and we were talking about the idea of people playing parts of races or abilities, disabilities that they don't actually possess. And this was kind of groundbreaking in the sense that it starred a lot of people with developmental disabilities.
And physical disformity as well, right?
Yep. This first one is an adventure about a young kid with Down syndrome. This is the synopsis that Crispin Glover gives for the movie. The adventures of a young man with Down syndrome whose principal interests are snails, salt, a pipe, and how to get home, who is tormented by a hubristic, racist inner psyche. None of it makes any sense. It's really difficult to watch. I went and saw this movie in person because Crispin has done these tours where he has the film, like canisters, and he travels around with them.
Like the 35 millimeter.
Yeah, and does these presentations along with a slideshow and book signing. I have a number of his books, which that's a topic for a whole nother episode, but it was a really fascinating experience, but I found myself in a small theater with a bunch of people that were clearly more knowledgeable about artistic film than I was, and I was massively uncomfortable. Some people were laughing, other people were like crying when he got up and talked at the end of it. He's just the strangest human being.
Oh yeah.
I did stand in line and get his autograph and got a picture with him, and he's just a real character. I have actually been kind of wanting to go back and watch the rest of them at some point because why not? Although every time I see him doing his tour again, he hasn't come close to here. I did drive to Seattle the first time to see it.
Sure.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Now, what brought this to my mind this week, in addition to the whole discussion we had last week about a person without autism playing a person with autism, etc., I heard an album of music that apparently Caleb Landry Jones made this year.
CLJ.
Yeah, it's very strange. Again, it is the kind of music that is for a taste that is smarter than mine. It was interesting, and I'm obsessed with Caleb Landry Jones. Then Byron sent me a video that he made for one of the songs.
I didn't make it. Caleb did.
Yeah, sorry. Byron sent me the video that Caleb made for one of these songs called Flag Day / The Mother Stone. And I haven't even listened to it. I've just watched it on silent, and it is deeply unsettling in a way that reminded me a great deal of Crispin Glover's It trilogy.
I could see it playing well silently.
Well, maybe. It still made me feel very cringy.
I don't know how much we've talked about my experiences with Caleb Landry Jones, but like we were talking about before the show, I saw him at a Q&A for a film he did with Imogen Poots, and he literally sat on the floor of the stage during it crisscross applesauce. He was wearing sweatpants, answering questions very monotone and slowly, and then we walked behind him and his dad, who was escorting him around after the film. We weren't following him. We just happened to be going the same direction as him. But it was very odd. It seemed like his dad was his handler, and maybe he wasn't. I don't know. I don't want to.
Well,
I can't slander a man. Like, I have no
right,
idea.
And it sounds, from what you've said and our other friend that was with you, it sounds like either he's got some major drug issues, or he has some type of a mental issue. Possibly.
Or he's just a really incredible
actor. He's Joaquining. Yeah, he could be Joaquining.
He's Joaquining down the street. I was right behind him.
Oh my God, I love that. That was good that we just did that. I think that's amazing.
We just created something magical, right? Right for the holiday season. That's a gift for you guys. It Is Fine, Everything Is Fine is the 2007 Crispin Glover film, which is a psychosexual, fantastical retelling of the life of a man with cerebral palsy and a fetish for girls with long hair. Both of these films actually premiered at Sundance, though, Kelly. Like you, the way you talked about it, it sounded like it was this ragtag tour across the country.
But it was because he never had them formally released.
Sure, that does make sense.
So, like, he premiered them there, but then it was just a weird sideshow traveling Salvation show.
That's something he loves to do. This guy's a real weirdo.
Yeah.
I mean, he plays the creepy thin man in Charlie's Angels.
Oh, yeah. And he's in the new Smiley Face Killers, which I'm very excited to watch just because I love myself a Bret Easton Ellis.
Yeah, which is something I believe we might be watching for a behind the screens episode. Just a little open discussion about the film The Smiley Face Killers as well as the factual Smiley Face Killers.
Oh, okay.
You weren't prepared for that? I was going to definitely tell you about what the deal is.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
No, I'm very excited about that. Any chance that I get, one of these days they're going to make a hell of a movie out of Glamorama, whatever way you want to say it. And then I'm going to be really happy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've never seen the bizarre works of Crispin Glover, but I know that it's something you've been interested in for a long time. But I just can't trust you because you, at the same time, you like Corky Romano just as much as you like these films.
I wouldn't say just as much. No, I wouldn't say just as much.
You're a big fan of Chris Kattan, and for some reason, I see Chris Kattan and I see Crispin Glover. They're two sides of... I guess they're two different coins. I was going to say they're two sides of the same coin.
Oh, they are very different coins. Crispin Glover collects gynecologist chairs.
All right. Well,
his dad was also in Diamonds Are Forever. He played one of the hitmen.
You know,
a gay hitman, very ahead of his time.
Two topics that we're going to be talking about later in the show. But Kelly, we got to kick people
Mr.
out.
Went and Mr. Kidd?
No.
Anybody remember that? Anyone?
No, I don't know.
Nope.
Another bizarre pick for you, two films that people cannot get a hold of. I don't know why we hired you. I don't know why you work here.
Well, I think I'm the greatest person. I mean, hold on. Let me just do a little bit of a Google here. I bet. What is it?
It's like
YouTube.
You've been asked to make a staff pick, and instead you wrote on a note card and put it in the place of where a VHS box would be. You can't watch this film, but...
I mean, you got to be able to watch it somewhere. And you should really experience the whole traveling show.
All right. Hopefully at some point when we can go outside, that's something that'll happen.
Yeah, it's also very difficult to find because the name of it is What Is It? Which is a very difficult thing to search for.
Sure, great.
Everything is fine. Might be easier to search for. I don't know. Anyhow.
Well, good pick. Proud of you, Kelly.
No, you aren't. You really need to watch these.
I will, and I am proud of you. You got mad at me for being too esoteric, so you tried to out esoteric me, and...
Oh, I fucking won.
Until next week. We'll see what happens. All right, Kelly.
Are we ready? Are we diving in? Because now it's not going to be fun anymore. It's going to just be really sad for like the next however long I'm talking about Marilyn tonight. So are you ready for it?
Yeah, in this week's edition, Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies.
Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies.
How are those brain pills?
I think they're just starting to kick in. I'm feeling really good. Feeling really good. Okay. Well, you guys, if you remember, last week we left off with Marilyn just as things were starting to turn up in Hollywood. Quick review. She had left her first husband, Doherty. She got a 6-month contract with 20th Century Fox, at which time Mr. Ben Lyon gave her name, Marilyn Monroe. A fun fact that I don't think I mentioned last week, but I want to work in there for you guys. Some say that Marilyn came from the name of a stage actress at the time, and Monroe was a family name that she had. But others say Marilyn and Ben hooked up, which became a recurring theme for her, a lot of what we're going to talk about tonight, and that Marilyn was actually the name of a woman he had previously dated who he thought was really pretty and told her to take that name, which, if it's true that they had a romantic relationship, that really does really clearly summarize her interaction with men and how mean a lot of it was. So I hope it was just from another stage actress, but if it was from somebody he dated and he had hooked up with her and then said, hey, you should have her name because she's really pretty.
Yeah.
That's awful and sad and makes my stomach hurt.
That's a couple steps past like talking about your ex on a first date.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Her contract with Fox actually started in August and her divorce was finalized in September. And this is in 1946. Mm-hmm. As we talked about, the roles didn't really pop up right away, so she started working her butt off acting, getting training, and she was working at an actor's lab that was involved in a lot more theater and stage productions. Though she had a couple bit roles, finally, in 1947, where things started to take off a little bit more for her was playing a blonde vamp in a stage production called Glamour Preferred.
I didn't know she did horror.
I know.
Did
I
you
wish it was a vampire, but no, it's not.
Wait, what?
I know, it's very sad. Didn't have a very long run, but that image oddly seemed to set the stage for basically the remainder of her life, which at this point, spoiler alert, it's only another 15 years. She's not got a lot. This was not just a Marilyn thing, but back in this time, for young women trying to get started in Hollywood, it was real Weinstein-y. Except, I don't even want to say except. It was just real Weinstein-y.
That's it. Sucked.
Yeah.
You had to do sexual favors to get roles.
Yeah, and because Marilyn's upbringing already had sex in such an unhealthy position in her life, like she really didn't have experience with men in a way other than sexually. She was a really easy person to take advantage of in this quid pro quo sexual favor universe. So we're going to talk a bit about the men that stepped on her and the men that she upset along the way, because all of this really does tie in at the end of the day to her untimely death. Her first real break came from a gentleman named Joe Schenck. Now, he was a Hollywood producer. He had been involved in a scandal in the 1940s. Well, it was going on the 20s through the 40s, and then it was brought to light in the 40s because these mafia guys, specifically a gentleman named William Morris Bioff, had been extorting money from Hollywood producers because he was a union leader. And he kept saying, I'm going to unionize all of these actors that you're making bucks on unless you pay me money. That kept going, and the Bioff payments got north of $1 million, which back then was even more insane than it would be today. Yeah. And so it eventually did come to light. A trial happened, and one of the people that spent some time in jail because of the trial was this gentleman, Joe Schenck. By the time he met Marilyn, of course, he was out of jail and was still a very powerful Hollywood producer, because why would that stop him from being a powerful Hollywood producer?
Of course.
And he also had deep connections to the mob.
Yeah.
Okay. He started hooking up with Marilyn in exchange for small parts, and then he also informed another producer, Harry Cohn, about her, promoted her, and also basically, from what it sounds like, said, hey, you can get some good favors from this lady if you just give her some shitty parts and some shitty movies.
I love this description of Harry Cohn, though. He was crude, uneducated, foul, and even on his best behavior, abrasive.
And so both of these guys are Hollywood producers, mob, not even tied, but like mob rooted.
Yeah.
And that's a good picture for everybody to have, because this is something that we will come back to. There were incredibly intricate connections between the mafia and Hollywood and entertainment in general at this time. It was kind of impossible to be involved in one without at least tangentially being involved in the other. Marilyn kind of continued this trajectory of interacting with producers and executives as a way to build her career, which it's easy to judge her for. But the reality is, it was part of her work ethic.
Yeah, I don't judge her for playing the game. Unfortunately, that was the disgusting way it was played back then.
And I think, looking at this woman who was obviously pretty vulnerable, pretty easy to be taken advantage of, also just emotionally very unhealthy with her relationships with these guys because she didn't have any strong male figures in her life. And it was just really, 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 really mean. The whole situation
sucks.
Yeah, it sucked a lot. She eventually became part of a talent acting agency, the William Morris Agency. The vice president of the agency was a guy named Johnny Hyde. He really took her under his wing. And in the stuff that I have read, it's interesting because on the one hand, I read like the Wikipedia summary and it talks about her. Basically, he had her get a bunch of plastic surgery, got her a part in a Marx Brothers movie that really helped her career in 1950, did a lot of things for her career. But on the other hand, I've read and heard a lot of interviews talking about how Johnny Hyde was actually really, really, really nice and was really trying to take care of her. It's hard for me to reconcile that with the idea that he paid for her to have plastic surgery on her jaw and get a nose job, but maybe he was a good guy and maybe that's just, was part of the thing. So there's a lot of testimony about him being a good guy.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. And I mean, the William Morris Agency continues to today. They're now called Endeavor, which is a holding group for talent in Hollywood based in Beverly Hills.
I didn't know they were still around.
Yeah, I mean, started as William Morris Endeavor, and now it's just called Endeavor. It was WME as well.
Really?
More recently, 3 years ago, just straight up Endeavor.
Wow, okay.
That's not where the scandal stops, though. Terry Crews, actually, remember his whole sexual abuse thing?
Really?
Yeah, it took place with someone working at WME.
Holy cow. Okay, well, that's interesting context.
Yeah.
So there were some very famous nude photos of Marilyn shot during this period. And
you want to hear something? Maybe my dad will listen to this. He has this 1978 Fender P-Bass. It's exquisite, but as a kid, I used to open it up, and he had this laminated photo from an old magazine of Marilyn Monroe naked. I believe it must have been from one of these photo shoots.
Oh, yeah, it probably was. She apparently said no originally and then literally needed to pay rent.
Mm-hmm.
So she said yes, but she insisted that the photographer, Tom Kelly, that his wife was present too, which just says something. Like, she's only really been in Hollywood for not even 4 years now.
Yeah.
And she's scared enough to be alone with a man that she wants to have the wife present to keep him from doing something to her. Then the movie parts started picking up, and the biggest one was
Asphalt Jungle?
Well, I was going to say All About Eve before that.
You remember Miss Caswell?
I do not. How do you do? We've never met. Maybe that's why.
Miss Caswell is an actress, a graduate of the Copacabana School of Dramatic Art. Ah, Eve.
Good evening, Mr. DeWitt. I had no idea you two knew each other.
And this was produced by Daryl F. Zanuck, which I bet you could guess was another man that she's rumored to have had an affair with. And it was supposedly a pretty predatory situation.
Gross.
Then she starred in John Huston's crime movie, The Asphalt Jungle. And there's some really interesting interviews with John Huston out there about Marilyn Monroe.
I said, I'd like to have her read for us. And she did. Read beautifully. I remember she, if you recall the role in the film, she played most of the part on a sofa. And there was no sofa in the room. And so she got down on the floor and did it very well. I instantly said yes, by all means. This was the first role I think Marilyn had ever played. Her interpretation was everything, perhaps more than I'd expected.
What's the big idea standing there staring at me, Uncle Lon?
Don't call me Uncle Lon.
Thought you liked it.
Maybe I did. I don't anymore.
She was wonderful in the scene, But good as she was, I had no idea that she would ever attain to the figure, the image for a whole country and a whole world that eventually she did.
He actually directed the last movie that she worked on as well, that she was involved in when she died. Right after she filmed All About Eve in the Asphalt Jungle, Johnny Hyde passed away of a heart attack.
Oh.
He had just negotiated a big contract for Marilyn and then kicked the bucket, which is quite sad.
Yeah, with 20th Century Fox.
Yep. So this is the period of time where her career took off. Hopefully it means that she wasn't needing to compromise herself as frequently in order to maintain her success.
One could hope, yeah.
Yeah, and she did have an affair in 1952 with Elia Kazan, who is Zoe Kazan's grandfather. Mm-hmm. What horror movie was she in that we watched?
She was in The Monster. Brian Bertino's The Monster.
There we go. Brian Boitano.
Oh, my God.
He wrote a letter to his wife many years later confessing to the affair. And this one sounded like it probably wasn't nearly as yuck face as some of the others. It sounded like a little less disgusting.
Like more like we had feelings for each other instead of give me what you got.
Yep. And so we've already kind of highlighted the connection to the mob, which is going to come back into play recurringly. But now it's time to highlight the connection to the other biggest factor in her life, in my opinion, based on my research. Mm-hmm. This was a guy that she dated briefly around the same time that she had dated Elia Kazan. This gentleman was Peter Lawford. Now, Peter Lawford was an actor. He was part of the Rat Pack. Byron, you familiar with the Rat Pack?
I think
Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford,
yep.
Joey Bishop, which was one of them, but nobody ever really talks about him. Anyhow, so these were the guys that were cool cats with good singing voices or acting talents. He was a British gentleman. Though their relationship wasn't a super serious relationship, they became friends and remained friends for a very long time. And he went on to marry a woman, and this marriage, I'm going to put a stake in the ground, and I'm going to say that were it not for Peter Lawford's marriage, Marilyn Monroe would be alive today.
Oh.
Because he married Patricia Kennedy, JFK's little sister.
Here we go.
Yep. But Marilyn's path wandered a few other directions first. So she started dating a very famous baseball player who has ended up in a lot of song lyrics, oddly, Joe DiMaggio. He was, by all accounts, a pretty shy guy.
Had a very difficult time building. He was a wonderful athlete, and he could hit a baseball. Anything thrown his direction, he could hit. So he understood some things about me, and I understood some things about him, and we based our marriage on it. And I say some things. Well, I don't want to say that. I just say...
Though their marriage did not even last a full year, it was him at the end of her life that really seemed to mourn the most deeply and authentically for Marilyn. And a lot of people say that he was always in love with her, and even there had been phone calls between the two of them only a few days before her death. Mm-hmm. Apparently he had broken up with a girlfriend and was talking about really wanting to see her again. And there are some crazy rumors that float around about him having something to do with her death. I do not think there's any substance to those. If you watch or listen to anything involving him after her death, he was a train wreck. It was really sad. Very, very sad.
And for those that don't know, I mean, Joe DiMaggio, New York Yankee. They call him Joltin' Joe.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people know who he is, but yeah.
And apparently he first heard about Marilyn when he saw some guys on the White Sox team looking at a picture of her.
Oh, wow.
Apparently when she went on a first date with him, she was expecting it to be like, oh, this super smooth, I don't know, bro.
Sure.
I will say.
Jocular gentleman.
Right, but he was actually super shy and very kind, and yeah, they hit it off. And
Nice.
you can imagine how after so much of what she had encountered in her life, that kind of a man would be very appealing and comforting, though apparently didn't hold her attention, and they were divorced shortly thereafter.
Yeah. I mean, was he an all right guy, all things aside?
Everything that I've been able to find really seems to indicate that he was.
Good.
I'm sure that there are...
Those 1950s tendencies of men, I am sure that some of that was there, but it's nice to hear that someone didn't do something awful explicitly to her. So
also right around this time, there's an interesting side note. Joan Crawford made a snotty remark about her because she wore some super, super, super tight dress, gold lame dress to be exact, and Joan Crawford said it was unbecoming of a lady. But
you fuck off, Joan.
There's a book out there, one of the many biographies about Marilyn Monroe, that says that actually Joan and Marilyn had a really brief fling.
Oh,
so,
interesting. Yeah.
Who knows? Marriage to DiMaggio doesn't last a terribly long time. And then a movie comes out in 1954, towards the end, called The 7-Year Itch.
Didn't you just love the picture? I did. But I just felt so sorry for the creature at the end.
Sorry for the creature? Why'd you want him to marry the girl?
He was kind of scary looking, but he wasn't really all bad. I think he just craved a little affection. You know, a sense of being loved and needed and wanted.
That's a very interesting point of view.
Oh, do you feel the breeze from the subway? Isn't it delicious?
This is where the famous skirt blowing up came from.
Ah, interesting. Never seen it. I mean, I've seen the skirt blow up. I've never seen the film.
Oh, I was going to say, what?
Excuse me?
Same. I haven't seen it either.
Plot of that film, I imagine, is a married gentleman sees Marilyn and becomes infatuated. Is that?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. Like, it's this is probably on my mind because we watched Christmas Vacation last night, but it's kind of like the lady for Sparky.
For some reason, I immediately went to Vegas Vacation with Beverly D'Angelo and Wayne Newton. Are you there? Did you leave the room too?
I'm right here. Sorry. Yes, Beverly D'Angelo. That is the one.
Did you know that Vegas Vacation has a 13% on Rotten Tomatoes? I think it deserves way more than that.
Oh, it deserves. It's one of my favorites. I love that movie.
I've never seen Christmas Vacation though.
You've never seen it? Oh, you got to watch it. You'll love it. It's great.
Yeah. Okay. We just jumped off a cliff.
I'm sorry. So right before her divorce from Joe DiMaggio, an interesting thing happened in her career, and this again kind of indicates she really was trying to do something serious. Even before she landed some of these big roles, as we know, she was working really hard acting. She did stage acting. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows that stage acting's more legit, right? Like,
yeah,
she cared a lot about being taken seriously. She started pushing really hard after she had some of this early success. She started pushing really hard to be in serious roles. She didn't want to keep playing a dumb blonde or a sex figure. She wanted to do something serious. In 1954, so Zanuck, this this movie producer from Fox, who was at some point at least exchanging favors with her, said, hey, you don't get to do any serious movies. We got to make money. And the comedy and sexy movies are making money. We're going to start another one, a musical comedy called The Girl in Pink Tights. And Marilyn's basically said, F you, I'm not filming it. But because she was under contract with them, that didn't go over well. So they suspended her.
That sucks. You know, like there's always the Steve Martin rule. He always said, I'll do one for me and one for the studio.
Super smart. It's a great way to go. But he was also a man.
Yeah.
That makes it a little easier. It also was, not 1950s. Though she had been seriously dating Joe DiMaggio for a while, and I think they did have a very loving relationship, she took advantage of this time to get married in order to counteract all of the shitty publicity that was coming from her refusing to act in this role and getting suspended. They traveled abroad a bit, and she did a USO show. Then later that year, when she was filming 7-Year Itch and they did the photo shoot with the subway grate and the skirt blowing, supposedly, It was like the straw that broke the camel's back for DiMaggio because he was really not happy about that. And him not being happy about that triggered her because she didn't like being controlled. Then she filed for divorce against him, I guess. And that was the end of that.
Wow.
But Marilyn's efforts to become a serious actor in the eyes of America took their next big step by her decision to date a very serious gentleman by the name of Arthur Miller.
Mm-hmm. Playwright.
Yes. He was a playwright and, in fact, wrote some of the most depressing plays I have ever watched or read. Byron, did you ever read Death of a Salesman?
I never read it. I don't think I did.
Yeah, it's so sad.
Yeah.
He just wrote very sad things. But he also, did you ever have to read The Crucible?
I believe so.
And every teacher that teaches it, you have to study it parallel to the communist witch hunts because that's why Arthur Miller wrote it. He wrote it when that was going on in America.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he had a lot of friends that were communists or at least had like ties to the Communist Party. And he was basically saying the government is no better than the shitty people that were executing witches in Salem.
Well, yeah, this was in the middle of the communism Hollywood blacklist.
Yeah. So we're going to touch now to the third major factor in Marilyn's untimely death, connection to the Communist Party. So not only was she married to Arthur Miller, and this marriage did last 4 years.
Oh, wow.
No, I can't say he gave me a feeling of security. There wasn't any reason for him to, really, except he treated me as a human being, and he was a very sensitive human being and treated me as a sensitive person also. I don't know how to describe.
No, of course it's very difficult.
Although a lot of it was pretty rocky, but they were married for 4 years.
And did she date Marlon Brando before or after Arthur Miller?
Supposedly during.
Oh, okay.
Also probably dated a gentleman named Jose Bolaños.
I don't know that guy.
Yeah. He was also affiliated with the Communist Party.
And we didn't really mention like her skyrocketing success between 1952 and 1954 after she ended things with Joe DiMaggio. She left that marriage as a superstar, you know?
Oh, very much so.
And now she's dating these very, very famous people.
Yes.
Marlon Brando and Arthur Miller.
Well, and Robert Mitchum was in there somewhere too. So she ended up being in a movie called Some Like It Hot, which I saw once upon a time, but I haven't seen in forever. It supposedly was the funniest movie ever made at that point in time.
It's like the Pineapple Express of the time, or what?
I guess it was a bit of a mad show on set. She was pretty difficult to work with, it sounds like. Tony Curtis, though he supposedly dated her as well, said at this point that kissing her was like kissing Hitler.
Excuse me?
Which seems like a bit much.
Because she had a small mustache?
I don't know if that's what.
I doubt it.
No, I think it's because it was just a very unpleasant environment and he was holding her accountable for that unpleasant environment.
Not chill.
Yeah. We're skimming over a lot of her career because really at the end of the day, this isn't supposed to be about her career. It's supposed to be about her mysterious death. So it's important to note that she actually obtained a Mexican divorce from Arthur Miller.
Now tell me what that's about.
It was just easier, less expensive, and it was apparently legal. So this was a thing to do. You could go to Mexico and file for divorce rather than spending a bunch of money and making it a bigger pain in the ass in America. Yeah. So that's what happened.
Interesting. I did not know anything about Mexican divorce.
Yeah, isn't that weird? I don't know if it still holds true or not. But
1970s, in accordance with Mexican federal law recommendation, many courts stopped accepting divorce from non-residents.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Around this time, her career, though, like she had really hit it big, especially with Some Like It Hot because it was such a popular movie.
Smash hit.
That had been a couple years ago now. She was supposed to star in Breakfast at Tiffany's, the Audrey Hepburn role.
My girl.
Yeah, she didn't get it because the production team, the director, the producers were all very worried that her propensity for creating the need for a lot of retakes and not showing up on time to set would just make the production way too difficult. So they didn't want to use her, which is a really big bummer to think about because she's using a decent amount of drugs at this point.
Okay.
Lots of barbiturates, pain pills, then uppers to be able to function when she wakes up in the morning.
How'd she get into that? What was the beginning of that?
Since she had access to that kind of stuff in Hollywood, I think she had used it. And obviously, there's an emotional self-medication element to it, I think, based on what I've read. Well, the woman had a lot of trauma in her life. And
it looks like she also suffered from gallstones at some point during her life, and maybe that's...
She did, and endometriosis.
Oh, that's terrible.
We haven't gone into detail about this, but there's no official record of it, but there's a lot of reports that she had multiple miscarriages, and she really wanted kids, but had multiple miscarriages. And then it ended up being that she had endometriosis. She had a surgery for it. It was really awful. And then obviously when she had that surgery, there were more pain pills involved.
Yeah, it just becomes more and more of a habit.
Yeah, and again, this is a time when Joe DiMaggio swings back in to literally help her recover from that surgery. He's a really nice guy.
Swings back in? Like a baseball bat?
I mean, maybe not like a baseball bat, but...
No, I was just saying that's kind of fun.
Apparently she started dating Franklin? She started dating Frank Sinatra at the same time.
All right.
And Frank gave her a dog that she called Moff for Mafia, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
We're going to leave off tonight with a story about a fateful meeting on one spring evening in 1962. Peter Lawford was friends with JFK at this point because he had married his younger sister, and JFK had expressed to Peter Lawford, supposedly, this is all allegedly, right, that, hey, it'd be really cool if I got to meet Marilyn Monroe. Mm-hmm. On March 24th in 1962, both Marilyn and Kennedy were guests at Bing Crosby's house in Palm Springs for a dinner party.
Remember Bing? We talked about him on the last episode of Behind the Screens.
We did. Remember how all of his kids died?
Yeah, that was heavy. We had
Awful.
a bit of a... we learned a lot about Bing.
We did. Big ears.
Yeah.
Like Faith.
Yeah.
Just like me. Okay. We don't know for sure that this was the first time that they met, but we do know that they were both at this party. This is the only place they were ever photographed together. There was a guy that Marilyn was friends with, a masseuse and actor called Ralph Roberts. Apparently, she called him from the bedroom at Bing Crosby's house where JFK was staying, and the three of them had a conversation about the president's back problems. Mm-hmm. So, they had hooked up, and Marilyn was like, "Oh, I'm worried about your back," and he had complained about his back, so they were, in bed together, called Roberts to see if he could help with his back problems.
Interesting.
Which this whole thing seems very strange.
And we don't know how public, I mean, someone could tell us this, but I don't know how public JFK's back problems were. But, I mean, people know that he hurt his back in the war, and before that, apparently it started when he's playing
Probably with all
football.
those ladies he was sleeping with, too.
Okay.
Lots of back problems from that. So many ladies.
There's a lot of them. Yeah, one of these days. Did we cover all of his affairs during our JFK series,
No,
or did
I
we
don't
just
think we got
we
it.
just focused on his head
just
flapping
the dead time.
open? Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So that's where we're going to leave off today, Byron. This is the beginning of the end for poor Marilyn, and we're going to talk a lot about what happened between 1961 and August of 1962. Not just with JFK, but also with Bobby and some other very interesting characters. The story is crazier than you could ever imagine, but truth is often stranger than fiction. So,
wow. Well, I can't wait. We're going to continue that here in 2 weeks, because next week we're taking a bit of a Christmas... I mean, it's
detour?
A
Christmas detour.
We're taking the scenic route. I've got something coming up for you guys, and I think we might have a little bit of Marilyn for you as well. But Kelly...
Yeah?
Thank you so much for that report. Real appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome.
It was a lot of fun. That was a good one.
There are a lot of ways for women to claim their power in this world. Mm-hmm. Marilyn certainly tested a few of those out. Another one that I hadn't really thought about until this week was actually just jumping into a giant middle-aged man's body.
Great idea. It's that would get you somewhere faster back then. Let's talk about it as we review Freaky.
We hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
Freaky is a 2020 American horror comedy film directed by Christopher Landon from a screenplay by Michael Kennedy and Christopher Landon, starring Vince Vaughn and Catherine Newton. 17-year-old Millie Kessler spends her days trying to survive high school and the cruel actions of the popular crowd. But when she becomes the latest target of the Butcher, the town's infamous serial killer, her senior year becomes the least of her worries. When the Butcher's mystical dagger becomes the lead. When the Butcher's mystical dagger causes him and Millie to magically switch bodies, the frightened teen learns that she has just 24 hours to get her identity back before she looks like a middle-aged maniac forever. Christopher Bo Landon. You don't know anything about this guy, right?
Absolutely, positively
I got
nothing.
so much to tell you. Born February 27th, 1975 to Lynn No and the actor Michael Landon. Little House on the Prairie, Bonanza, Stairway to Heaven. Do you have any feelings about Michael Landon at all?
No.
All right, I'm surprised by that.
No, I mean, it was something I never understood very well. I mean, as far as I remember, it was sad when he died. That's kind of all I've got.
It was. It happened really quick. I did a little bit of deep diving on Michael Landon. He announced his very aggressive form of pancreatic cancer publicly in a press conference, and then ended up going on the Johnny Carson show and talking a little bit about it and the things that he was doing to try to slow it down. Like he tried to, I think, make the world comfortable with his diagnosis, which I think was different at that time to come out publicly like that. Like on the show with Johnny, he's talking about how he's doing coffee enemas and drinking carrot juice until his skin turns orange. And he said he's facing this with comedy because that's just how he decided to take it. But yeah, he died very soon after that. His son, he's the youngest of 4 kids from that marriage because Michael Landon, I think, had 3 different wives, and at the end he had 9 kids. But yeah, this guy, Christopher, he's a Hollywood boy, graduated from Beverly Hills High, lived with Michael Landon from age 4 to 16, and Michael Landon died when he was 16.
That's a rough time.
Yeah, not a good age to lose your father, that's for sure. I know one of my best friends lost his dad to a heart attack in high school. It was really tough.
Yeah.
Christopher went on to attend Loyola Marymount University.
In L.A.?
Marymount, I think, is that LA?
I send so many kids there every year.
How do they do?
It's a good school. It's really pretty. Kids love it because you could see the beach from campus. It's a smaller school. They give good scholarships.
Is it a film school
not
or
top
art
tier,
school?
but
What kind of school is it?
Mid-tier. It's like a general liberal arts school.
All right. Well,
I think they have a film program, but it's they're surrounded by very strong film programs.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look great by comparison, but it's fine.
Christopher seemed to enjoy it, but he did drop out after 3 years when Larry Clark, the director of Kids, Bully, and other teensploitation films, asked him to write a film for him called Another Day in Paradise, which kickstarted his career as a screenwriter.
What was Another Day in Paradise about? I never saw that.
Yeah, I didn't see it either. I haven't seen a lot of the late Larry Clark films. He gives me a bad vibe. Like,
oh, really? Like kids, you think that's strange? That you don't get a good vibe from kids?
So Christopher goes on to write that Shia LaBeouf modern twist on Rear Window, Disturbia, in 2007. And then he had a directorial debut with Burning Palms in 2010, followed by screenplays for Paranormal Activity 2, 3, 4, and The Marked Ones, which was the first film that he directed in that franchise. In 2015, he wrote and directed Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, which I didn't see, but I heard great things about.
Yeah.
2016, he wrote a little Blumhouse film called Viral, which I believe was one of my early staff picks. I enjoyed that film quite a bit for being such a low-budget Blum. 2017, Christopher directed Happy Death Day to wide praise, and then wrote and directed its sequel, Happy Death Day to You, 2 years later, which brings us to the present. In early August of 2019, it was announced that Christopher Landon would write and direct a new horror film with Blum serving as the producer. Specific plot details were not revealed, but the story was described as a violent figure wreaking havoc in a small town. Production started in Atlanta in October, and there was some speculation going around on the internet that this was a secret reboot of the Scream franchise, but in an interview they squashed those rumors, and he said it was more of a original story taking inspiration from Mary Rogers' Freaky Friday, which is a film that I have not seen.
Original or remake?
He said it's inspired by Freaky Friday, but it's an original story.
No, I'm saying you've never seen the original or the remake of Freaky Friday.
I don't believe I have. Wasn't Lindsay Lohan in the remake? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't seen either. No.
And I think Jodie Foster was the original, wasn't she?
And then did she come back as the mother in the Freaky Friday reboot? Is that?
Good question. I don't really know.
I don't know. I'm a horror journalist. I don't know anything about this. Principal photography lasted for 35 days under the original title Freaky Friday the 13th, which... what a mess that would have been. I'm really glad they changed the name.
Yeah, that's just too much. Yeah.
Freaky's good. It's a good name. I like it. Shooting began October 21st and wrapped December 12th of 2019. It had its world premiere at Beyond Fest October 8th of 2020, which I heard was kind of cool this year. It's an LA festival that I've always wanted to check out, but yeah, they adapted to the COVID stuff by involving a lot of drive-in theaters, which was a nice way to do a festival during all this craziness.
I agree. Maybe the only nice way to do it.
It was theatrically released in the U.S. on November 13th by Universal Pictures, and they spent an estimated $8 million promoting the film, just like last week. It's a lot of cash.
It is.
VOD, December 4th, and here we are, Kelly, with a Vince Vaughn gentleman. How do you feel about him?
You know, he's one of those people that I would not be surprised if he was like a total ass in real life. I have no reason to believe that he is or isn't. I really have no idea.
Well, I know he caused a stir this year when he, didn't he shake the hand of Donald Trump at a sporting game? Is that right?
I mean, like, shaking his hand, I don't really care about. Like, I'm not going to get mad at somebody for not being uncivil.
Yeah, and that,
but
he actually
if he
went
ever
to... He
promoted anything.
Well, I mean,
of Trump's.
You're pro Matthew McConaughey. He's getting a lot of heat right now too for coming out as a centrist.
Yeah, but again, he's not like, I'm not going to agree with him politically, but he's not. It doesn't seem to me, at least, that he's endorsing Trump.
Yeah.
What he seems to be saying is actually what a lot of my liberal friends say, which is like, hey, by just calling the other side stupid and not listening to why they're expressing these ideas about a fraudulent election is the reason that people keep voting for somebody like Trump.
Exactly. You're disenfranchising people by calling them stupid. And I don't see anything wrong with shaking the hand of Trump. I wouldn't do it. But if you're Vince Vaughn and Trump happens to be a fan of your movies and talks to you for a second.
Did Vince Vaughn vote for
Trump? I mean, I have no idea, but he did quote say, "I've always been cordial to politicians." I don't see anything wrong with that, and I don't know why we're talking about it. I think it's Vince Vaughn, though, playing the Blissfield Butcher, an aging serial killer known as an urban legend in the town. It swaps bodies with Millie due to a mystical dagger, which we're going to talk more about. Vince has done a lot of really good genre stuff recently. Brawl in Cell Block 99, which was one of the only non-horror films that we've brought to the table here. Episode 144, where we also talked about Plymouth, Plagues, Pilgrims, and Pawtucket, which was a fun episode. Lots of alliteration.
It was a good one.
But that movie was awesome. I heard he was in Dragged Across Concrete, which I did not see, but he was in the second season of True Detective, which was kind of fun. I like his dark turn he's taken. It's interesting to me.
Vince says that he's a libertarian.
I don't know what to tell you, Kelly.
So this is what he said. In my career, I've met a lot of politicians who I've always been cordial to. I've met Nancy Pelosi and was cordial to her as well.
Good. And let's leave it there because I don't think we need to talk about it. Catherine Newton, who plays Millie Kessler. She's a tormented high school student who unintentionally trades bodies with the Blissfield
Hold on.
Butcher.
Time out. I'm really sorry. Give me just one second, though.
Yeah, I'll give you the floor is
Fox
yours.
News is this story, and this is just funny. This is funny.
Okay.
Because the second part of that paragraph, so I was cordial to Pelosi as well. Vaughn told the Los Angeles Times in an interview published on Friday while discussing his latest film, a dark comedy titled Freaky, which also stars Kristen Bell.
Great work.
Good job.
Great work.
Good job, Fox.
Good job, Fox. I didn't know much about what Catherine was in until I typed her name.
I loved her in Big Little Lies. She was spectacular. I need to obviously go rewatch Paranormal 4 because I don't remember her in there. Like, I don't remember what she played in it.
She was a lot of fun in Blockers as well. I don't recall her performance in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, but I did like that film. So
I love that movie. You want to know who else is in that movie?
Who?
CLJ.
Excuse me? Oh,
Caleb Landry Jones.
Jones, of course. There we go. Wednesday the 11th, some kids are telling stories around a fire pit of a mansion, talking about the Blissfield Butcher. It started in 1977, has been killing every year. Or did it start when he was killing kids in the 90s and then disappeared, all centered around Homecoming? Or is it something else? He's a bit of an urban legend to discourage teenage debauchery. Pretty classic tale there. One of the more fun cold opens I've seen in a while. It's
I agree.
Extremely violent.
The beginning did not feel like it was necessarily going to be. Well, no, that's not true. It was pretty funny.
It was funny, but it was also like
it was like Scream funny. It reminded me of the same tone of Scream.
It had a lot of Scream tones actually, but it had the kills from like one of those mid Friday the 13th films. Like there's like a wine bottle kill where a wine bottle gets shoved down the mouth of someone and then broken and the shards bust through his neck. There's a toilet seat head smash. There's a tennis racket snap and stab, which is great. It's kind of like one of those arrows through the head looking things, but it's a tennis racket. And this is where we're introduced to the Blissfield Butcher, played by Vince Vaughn. What do you think about that killer's mask? It reminded me a little bit of the Leslie Vernon, Rise of Leslie Vernon mask.
Yeah. I liked it. I thought it was good. Vince Vaughn entertains me in movies. I enjoy him.
He's electric.
Mm-hmm. This was funny for all sorts of reasons. I mean, all the stupid tropes. It was great. It was entertaining.
And I mean, so obviously we're talking a meta horror film here. One of my biggest problems, I'll say right up top, and maybe you can convince me as we walk down this, but it relies heavily on references and playing on I mean, maybe not even just references, just the well-treaded path of a slasher genre film.
I disagree.
I think that we go beat for beat through stereotypical plot points, but without the twists and turning up that we get in films that this guy's done before, like in Happy Death Day. Those are all very similar plays on horror tropes.
But the turn up was that we have Vince Vaughn acting as a 17-year-old girl for the duration of the movie. And like, how do you want or need anything more than that? Well, it was a joy.
I agree. The performances were excellent. And I think...
I think I figured out what the problem was. Apparently the next movie Vaughn is in does have Kristen Bell.
Oh,
and so clearly Fox News just can't read clearly.
The performances get better once the switch happens. I'm not too drawn to...
Okay, but let me explain to you why that had to happen. Because if we're going to see a fun manifestation of Catherine playing Vince Vaughn, we have to have a really over-the-top melodramatic serial killer without a lot of nuance before. Otherwise, it's not, you can't carry that in a different body. And vice versa, we need to have like an over-the-top stereotypical teenage trope girl.
Yeah, I guess.
In order for Vince Vaughn to successfully and comedically play her. So they couldn't create super nuanced roles before they make the switch.
I guess that's true because, I mean, it gives you room to figure out who the characters are in these other bodies. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm glad the switch happened so quick because I was really not terribly impressed with Millie as a character initially. I thought they were leaning into like, remember that film Jawbreaker? She was a bit of a Jawbreaker character.
I mean, I guess that's fine. I felt like she was chiller than that, but
I don't know. And the killer, we didn't really know much about at all, but we learned a lot.
God damn, Vaughn is tall.
Yeah, what is he, 6'4", 6'3"?
6'5" and a half.
What a stature on that gentleman.
He's taller than a Sam.
Thursday the 12th, we are introduced to Millie with a gentle, innocent final girl introduction with that fun, like the uplifting music. We got the breakfast scene, all stuff we've seen before. It's quickly established that her sister is a police officer and that this is the 1-year anniversary of their father's death, which is, to me, that's just another Scream nod, I guess.
It is the third movie I watched this week about two like young children trying to hold their mother together because of their father dying a year ago. There's Christmas Chronicles.
Okay, yeah.
There's Godmothered, and there's this.
And both of those first ones are Christmas films, correct?
Yeah, Godmothered was kick-ass, though. You should watch it.
Yeah, but I imagine in the Christmas films that you saw, there wasn't a wine bottle in the garbage can. Mom's got a drinking problem.
You're right. Nope, there wasn't. There wasn't any alcoholism.
And Millie's got a cool problem. She is not getting along with the clique. They make fun of her dress because they say that she got it.
Like, what was with the guy running up and scaring her? I didn't understand that.
That is, I think, another nod from Scream. It happened to Sydney.
Oh, God, you're right.
Always nice to see Cameron, Mr. Bernardi, Alan Ruck.
God, he played an asshole.
Yeah, not thrilled with his mustache. One of the meanest shop teachers I've ever seen. But
I didn't understand what was his. Okay, so was this
something has to be on the floor there because he is so unnecessarily mean to Millie.
Well, and I was wondering if this was another nod that I just didn't get.
I'm sure that there's a horror film with some sort of shop teacher scene, but Alan Ruck. Incredible performance. I still to this day believe that I was behind him at a post office once in Los Angeles when I was there.
I believe you.
Yeah, this.
You know what it made me miss? It made me miss Succession. Got to start it over.
I got to start it. Period. Haven't seen it.
Byron. It needs to happen. This
folks
holiday.
love it. People love it.
It needs to happen.
You ever get an emergency alert that says something about mass murders? I don't think that they drop those too often.
Oh, but don't you remember that was a scene in Scream 2, wasn't it?
It came over the loudspeaker, and I think that they had a very similar
this is
response.
The equivalent of.
Yeah. There's a homecoming game. Millie is the only beaver the football boys wouldn't touch. Apparently, they don't like her. They threw orange soda at her, I believe.
Well, that's because some of them like the boys, and they just won't admit it.
I mean, yeah, that's true. At the end of the game, though, Millie's mom doesn't show up. She's late to pick her up because she's passed out on the couch. And in the distance, in the fog, in the parking lot, we see the butcher. Shouts to him, another Scream reference. My sister's going to be here any second. She's a cop with a gun, which is a lot like... My boyfriend's going to be here any second. He's a football. He plays football and he'll kick your ass, I believe. Casey Becker says.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't talk about the dagger, though, from the cold open. The butcher steals a dagger from an art collector's collection?
The teen's house that he's at first is the dad's some rich art and wine collector.
Yeah, and this knife called Ladola. It has some sort of magical powers. Do you believe that the butcher knew anything about this, or is this all coincidental?
Coincidental.
Yeah.
He just thought it was a cool looking fucking knife.
Pretty sick knife to grab. What a house to be a serial killer in. There's spears and knives and wine. It sounds like a good time.
You could take the spears and knives, and I'd take the wine. We'd make a great team.
What if we could raid an art collector's house so well?
Yeah.
I like a chase scene where she's half in a mascot costume. That's fun. Eventually, he catches up to her and gripping a dagger, clouds cover the moon and a temple forms below them as the butcher plunges the knife into Millie's shoulder. At the same time, the same wound appears in his shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was, I don't know why, I can't put my finger on it, but there were a couple scenes that gave me the same vibe as Drag Me to Hell, too.
Tell me about that. Why do you think that?
I don't really know. Maybe it's just that like she was laying on her back getting injured, and then there's a scene in Drag Me to Hell where she's laying on her back getting injured. I really don't know. That could be it.
In that case,
for some reason it like popped into my brain.
Wasn't she vomited on by a witch in that film?
It's kind of like being stabbed with a secret magic dagger.
Don't you think? It's the giving season, so I'll let you have that.
Thanks, B. By the way, I did some digging because one of the writers was Michael Kennedy. I was really hoping he was related to the Kennedys in some way because that would have been really fun for our episode, but he is not.
What's the deal with warning shots by this sister? I don't believe that police officers even are trained to do these warning shots.
I don't know that they're allowed to.
Yeah, I don't think legally.
Let me do I'm going to do a
cursory
fact
search
check on that one.
Because just then, as the knife plunges into Millie, the sister, who is a police officer, sheriff's deputy, I think she's just a cop, scares the butcher off by shooting a gun in the air. He runs off, and they leave the knife behind, which is checked into evidence. But after that night at the police station, Millie hits the hay. And something happens when the clock strikes midnight in whatever time zone they're in.
Oh, here we go. All right. For a while, warning shots were a thing, and then they weren't a thing. Police have been trained to avoid them for tactical and legal reasons. But then more recently, I mean, this was a couple years ago, but NPR ran an article about police warning shots may be in for a comeback.
Oh, great.
Yep. Well,
That's
there you
it?
go.
Oh,
There's
right.
there's your official. I'm sorry. I'm no Sam's weapons
that's fine.
authenticity report. It's
You
the best I got, man.
You did a great job. The next day, Millie isn't feeling herself because she isn't herself. And this is the beginning of my real enjoyment in her character. I think that I much prefer the creepy character to her loser high schooler character. And then we wake up at the same time simultaneously in the butcher's house, which is way more wild than waking up in a teenage girl's house. The set, to me, reminded me a lot of the film Maniac. There's mannequins all over. There's just a god-dang mess. Suddenly, it is Freaky Friday the 13th. We get a title card displaying that. Yeah, I agree. At this point, we get a lot more interesting characters, and I didn't really think of it the way that you proposed it, but yeah, it gives a lot more room for us to develop the characters when their bodies are switched.
Which is just so fun and enjoyable. I mean, it really was. Like, getting to see the interplay with the boy she had a crush on.
Who I want more of. I want more of that guy.
He was very
He
fun.
was awesome. It's a lot like Happy Death Day when I wanted more of that dude.
Yeah.
This character is just so much cooler and nuanced, and he's a great actor too. I don't have his name in front of me. Do you know?
No, because I just really wanted to talk about the guy that played Josh, but I suppose we can talk about...
Tell me about Josh. That's Misha. It's a name I can't pronounce, but...
Oshervok? Oh, it's kind of like Sam. It's Oshervich.
Ah.
It's like Milo Dragovich, but it's Oshervich.
Well, that's fun. Tell me what you think about Josh.
Osherovich.
Cool.
Osherovich.
Well,
Osherovich.
that's 5,
Osherovich.
6 swings at that name.
Osherovich.
7?
He was in Nosferatu. I haven't seen Nosferatu yet. I also haven't seen The Goldfinch, and I've heard it's really, 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 really,
Okay,
really,
tell
really
me
good.
what you think about Josh.
I mean, he's a very fun character. I like him a lot.
Okay.
I work with a lot of teenagers. It always warms my heart to see a teenager, gay or straight, who is confident in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved him for that. He was very fun. It was a good, fun buddy.
Her crush, played by Uriah.
I'm almost sure it's Uriah.
Thank you.
I think we're going to need to go with Uriah.
Thank you. Played by
like Urea, but Uriah.
Played by Uriah Shelton. He was great. I liked him a
imagine
lot.
growing up in Dallas, Texas, and then Magnolia Springs, Alabama, with a name like Uriah.
I think it made him an actor.
It did.
Her other friend, Nia Cones, played by Celeste O'Connor, she was great as well. I think that these characters, although stereotypes, obviously, if we're in a meta horror film, I think they were incredible performances.
When you hear something cool about Celeste, she's actually from Kenya.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Nairobi. Pretty
That's
sweet,
fun.
huh?
I think the butcher hiding from the community is really fun. I think Vince does an incredible job being a young lady. That was the real comedy of this. Super cool. Equally as cool as Millie being like jawbreaker cool. Like she's got this red leather jacket because she's a serial killer. She likes leather, I guess, and put her hair in a ponytail. But yet both of those characters really do shine once the switch happens. I think they get an opportunity to play in a really interesting world.
Well, and I think there's obviously a lot of subtext there about like teenagers are trying to figure out who they are. And ironically, there were parts about the way that he operated her universe and her life that she obviously didn't want to be a serial killer, but she was like, oh,
the confidence.
She's really confident over there. That'd be kind of cool. So I think there's like some, coming into your own skin a little bit more by watching somebody else in your own skin.
I didn't even consider that. That's funny. And another point that we haven't talked about yet, you said this movie's very funny. And I kind of agree. There was this chase scene that happened once Vince Vaughn as Millie comes forward to her two best friends. They have an extended chase scene, and eventually he says, everyone's tired. We've done lots of hitting. It's time to talk.
Oh my God, I love it. And she's like, if I were him, would I drop my weapon? And like drops like a plate or a platter or something.
Yeah. And then they have the favorite movie question, which he responds as her. I tell people it's Eternal Sunshine, but it's Pitch Perfect too, which is...
It's amazing. Makes me really happy.
It was great. I thought that was funny. That was really endearing, those scenes. But I think the story itself is something I don't really love. Like the whole... And I know I'm reading too much into this, but like 24 hours, what the fuck does that... Like... What ancient dagger? What ancient dagger runs on U.S. Standard Time? They couldn't even get their Mayan calendar.
Are you serious right now?
I'm just saying. I think it's silly. We're talking like
it is silly. It's a silly movie.
Like the kills are front and center for me. The shop teacher revenge rules. There's a couple sweet moments too in this, like the discount bonanza dressing room moment with the mom. thought that was really nice.
Oh, that was really cute. I agree.
Some sillier moments where Vince Vaughn is sitting with his crush in the car, and he's talking about how he's hashtag stress-sighted, which is stress and excited.
Right, which is really good.
I mean, yeah, it was a really sweet moment, too. There's a couple of ahs. You're still Millie to me, and then maybe we should wait until my hand's not bigger than your face. Another great funny line. I don't know, Kelly. Yeah, I'm ready for final thoughts if you are.
Yes, I'm very much ready for final thoughts.
Hit me with them.
This movie was really fun. It was everything I needed to escape the stress-citement of the holiday season. I love Catherine Newton. I hope she's in a billion more things. I hope Vince Vaughn joins me a little bit further on the left, but I still think he's a great actor.
Sure.
I thought that the character actors in this movie, the side parts, were really entertaining as well. Don't go in expecting like earth-shattering, norm-breaking horror. Go in expecting something fun and entertaining, because that's what we all need right now. We don't need anything too heady or serious, in my opinion.
All right, well.
That's why we like Pitch Perfect 2 instead of Eternal Sunshine these days. I give a freaky 7.7 bottles of tragically shattered wine.
Okay. Freaky is meta in some really obvious ways, but it's not very clever, which I think is essential for the subgenre. I'm sorry. I love the performance. Please don't fart into the mic. Come on.
It's a raspberry.
All right. Well, I love the performances once the swap commences. I dislike the story. I think it walks a pretty well-treaded path and it goes beat by beat with a lot of meta horror tropes, which I know is intentional, but I don't think they were elevated enough. But, I mean, Kelly, you're right. It is a fun, dumb film. It's a butts and seats horror film that if there were seats that were safe to be in, I think people would have been in them. So, I mean, for those reasons, I gotta give Freaky 5.7 friggin' daggers. I don't know. That's as creative as the movie's plot was. So those are my thoughts on Freaky. I don't know. It did, I believe, make close to its money back. It got $13.4 million after they spent on a $6 million budget with $8 million. I guess the math, it's pretty close. They did okay. But I want to know what you think about this. Did you think it was okay? Why don't you let us know on our social media platforms that allow us, Twitter and Instagram @Frightday. You could send us an email, contact@frightday.com, or you could leave a comment below this episode in the show notes at frightday.com. We can also have a full discussion about this in the Discord server. Discord.frightday.com is how you can get there. I'm having a lot of fun there.
I am too. I really need to be more mindful about it or turn on alerts or something, because there are days that'll pass and I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't checked it in a while. You just got to get into the habit.
Well, don't be like Kelly. Get there and turn on those notifications. And if you like our show and want to help us make it even better, you can grab something spooky at shop.frightday.com. I have unveiled the location of Bohemian Grove on a topographical map on a t-shirt at shop.frightday.com. Go check that out.
Which is honestly one of the best things ever.
Well, I think you're getting a little ahead of yourself, because Kelly, your sea blue Nessie t-shirt is available as well.
So good. It is so comfy too.
It's a Kelly blue. It's soft, and it would make
that Kelly is a green color, not a blue color, right?
Well, you're taking blue.
I mean, sure. Yeah. Okay. You bet.
Other things, stocking stuffers, enamel pins. I still got a couple Ed Geins and some Ted Bundys available, or you could get them together. It's a killer deal. That's what it's listed as.
Killer.
All right. Shop.frightday.com. And we may be fueled by Spring Heel Jack coffee, but it's the members of the Frightday Society who keep our lights on. We've got a couple new members there.
Welcome, friends.
I want you to come up with initiations.
Okay. All right. Like, what do you mean? Like, are we hazing, or are we like, tell me what we're doing here?
Fun time hazing? I don't know. What do you think?
Initiations are,
I don't want to hurt anyone.
No, obviously not. Okay, initiation number 1.
Well, this one's for Louie.
Where's Louie from?
I have no idea. I know their middle initial is R.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Louie. Welcome to the society.
Louie, your initiation ritual is to watch 2 Christmas movies back to back, one of which you've never heard of before. It has to be one that you've never heard of.
And we have a new Inner Circle member, that's Tim H.
Oh, Tim H. Okay. Tim, Your initiation is research where Marilyn Monroe's lost journal might be.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. It's the members of the Frightday Society who keep our lights on, which is good because recording a podcast in the dark would be weird. But, I mean, they don't just get recognition. There's so much more for folks to feast upon when you join the Frightday Society at patreon.com/Frightday. You want another episode each week? You're going to love Behind the Screams. And if you love the holiday season, you'd really enjoy our last episode because I was in a dark place. I can't tell you how many times in the past few weeks we've had to edit out the question, "You doing okay?"
Why are you editing it out?
Well, because I'm ashamed. But last week we got into the holiday season, and it was a lot of fun. We got to talk a little bit about Bing Crosby, our favorite Christmas snacks, some horror films in the subgenre that we recommended. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. That was good.
Spectacular, spectacular.
You also get bonus episodes of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies, Byron's Serial Corner, The Writer's Room, Toast to Toast PM with Wine Kelly, Cinema Autopsy, early access to new products, 15% off everything at shop.frightday.com, and honestly, you guys are making our dreams come true because there's nothing more that I want to do than sit around and make spooky content for you folks. So yeah, yes. We're getting close to phase 3, a whole new show where you can see our faces on Twitch. We just need more.
They are beautiful, aren't they?
More of you folks to join the society at patreon.com/Frightday. Most helpful of all, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you're listening to this. That's the best way to get us in new ears and up charts. Kelly, next week it's the Christmas episode.
Yeah, it doesn't sound very Christmassy, but okay.
Well, we'll see. We'll try to balance it out between you celebrating and me ruining it. But Kelly, until then, where are you going to be?
I am going to be at Kelly Frightday on Twitter, kelly@frightday.com by email. Come find me, and I hope everybody's going to have a good week and a good holiday season. Please be safe and take care of yourselves and your friends and neighbors.
And I'm at Byron McKoy on Twitter and Instagram. Byron@frightday.com is my email address. All of the nice things that Kelly said, plus something to make me better than her. What do we got?
Okay, sure.
I love you guys with all my heart. You are the best present I could ever ask for. There we go. I did it. And until next week, when we're going to be talking anything for Jackson, I'm Byron.
I'm Kelly. Don't waste wine.
And stay scared. You've been listening to an Audio Wool original, produced by Byron McKoy, theme music provided by Cemeteries. For more programs like this, visit audiowool.co.